Time to really dig in on what's going on with the Astros this offseason as Chandler Rome joins us now. And Chandler, as you can tell everybody here, as you told everybody there on social media, it's a done deal.
Yeah, it is. Just got confirmation about 5 minutes ago that Christian Walker and the Astros are in agreement. It is a 3-year, $60 million contract. That is the agreement. It's pending a physical, as always. We've seen how those things can go awry sometimes, but don't expect this one to. But, yeah, the Astros have their first baseman, and they're going to let a face of their franchise walk away.
Is that it's not even assumed at this point? It's so obvious in their hot pursuit of a third baseman, going as far as they did for Nolan Arenado and having that not work and immediately finalizing a deal within the week with Christian Walker. They've made the trade for Isaac Paredes. Do you think they had this idea on Bregman for quite some time that they needed to obviously pivot away?
Yeah. At some point you have to call a spade, and at some point you have to just look at what they've done this whole era, right? It was the same thing with George Springer. It was the same thing with Carlos Correa. It was the same thing with all these guys where you got a contract offer leaked early in the offseason. They never budged off of it, and they kind of pivoted and did their own thing and went elsewhere with them. And, you heard the whole time, big priority, all that semantic stuff that they have to say. But, yeah, it was always going to be a long shot for them to bring Alex Bregman back, just given what he wanted money-wise, what he wanted. And it's not I don't even think it's the money at this point. I think it's more a year's thing. Just Jim Crane is not comfortable going beyond 6 years. And it is a philosophy that has worked well. You can't argue with what they've done. They've been to the playoffs 8 straight years. They've gone to the ALCS 7 of those 8 years. But it creates, it creates a tough time for fans, I think, because fans get attached to these guys. They get attached to guys like Bregman, who they watched blossom into a superstar, and now he's going to go play elsewhere. But I do think they've threaded the needle nicely this offseason, and knowing that they're not going to bring him back, they've built a team that should contend in the American League West, which is hard to say, which is hard to square given that they traded their best player. But this was a move that I think is going to help them and really bolster their standing going into next year.
Yeah, that's one thing I tried to point out. This indicates that they are trying to compete here, not only in 2025, but in the immediate future that follows that. There certainly will be other moves made over the course of those years. Curious your thoughts on the additional moves of significance that might be made this offseason.
To be honest with you, I don't see any more significant additions coming. I think this is it. I think, this is their big splash. Obviously trading Kyle Tucker is also a big splash, but, I think that they're done making significant additions. I think they're still talking trades. It doesn't seem likely that Framber Valdez will be on the move. Dana Brown said as much after they traded Kyle Tucker, and then if you're going to go give Christian Walker 3 years and $60 million, it doesn't seem right to trade the ace of your pitching staff right after that. That would kind of run counter to things. But they are still talking to teams about Ryan Presley. They've been shopping him for a while now. That's going to be a hard one to do, just given his salary of $14 million, his age, and then he has a full no trade clause. And we saw how wonky no trade clauses can get here recently.
So to Christian Walker, some of the deeper analytics and some of the profiles from his offense certainly don't show a major significant downturn over the last 3 years, 32, 33, and next year will be age 34 season. A pretty consistent plus 800 OPS. 95 home runs over the last 3 years, 3 years consecutively as the Gold Glover over at first base, and additionally to how he might hit at Minute Maid Park. Do you think that bodes well for obviously the short-term deal?
It seems like we do the Minute Maid Park thing every time they sign a right-handed bat. No, the Crawford boxes didn't help Jose Abreu. The Crawford boxes were probably going to help Isaac Paredes. You just look at his profile, but he's still got to go out there and do it. Look, Christian Walker has hit very well the last 3 years. I think his last 3 years, he's hit at least 26 home runs in each of the past 3 years. And look, his bat is going to help this lineup. Do not misunderstand me that this is a good offensive addition. But something tells me that they coveted his defense maybe a little bit even more than his offense, because as you look at the composition of this team, presuming Framber Valdez stays on the team, he and Hunter Brown are going to be the top two starters in this rotation next year. They are two of the biggest and most ground ball pitchers in baseball. Having a good infield defense is mandatory. And you've seen in the last couple of years that the infield defense has slipped from this club, especially on the right side of the infield. Jose Altuve's defensive metrics are not good, and they are only getting worse. I think adding Christian Walker over there really, really helps to mask that and to give them a pretty good defensive infield, and something that they very much needed, especially when they, again, had in the back of their mind that they were going to let the reigning Gold Glover at third base depart as well.
Yeah, not necessarily tying his potential offensive production, talking about Walker, to the ballpark, but more so some of the things he was still doing well. His hard hit rate is up and certainly in a very good spot. His bat speed is fine. His exit velo, his barrel rate, these are all numbers that have been in at least a consistent spot, if not an uptick, even at his age. A very odd major league career. Very few players follow the path that Walker did. Do you think there's much concern, even though it's just a 3-year deal, that they're getting a player on obviously the wrong side of his career?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a risk you take. I mean, they took the risk with Jose Abreu and it didn't work, but they've taken teams have taken other risks and those worked. I do think you can't discount that Tony Perez-Chica is on the Astros staff now, was with the D-backs the last 13 years, was their infield coach. Probably no one has worked with Christian Walker more intricately than Tony Perez-Chica, and now he's part of the Astros staff, and it stands to reason that the Astros probably engaged with him and talked with him about Christian Walker, and they had a good source for giving them all that information and giving them the background that they needed to feel comfortable. So with that in mind, they have to feel somewhat comfortable about what they're doing. But again, all of these free agent deals are flyers. I mean, you can never guarantee success. You can never guarantee that this is going to work out well. On paper, though, this does. I mean, and look, I get all fans are going to lump the Jose Abreu deal in with all these free agent deals. This one looks a little safer than the Abreu deal, if only because of what we just talked about, that the value this guy is going to bring with his glove and defense far outweighs anything Jose Abreu brought in that category.
Yeah, sadly, they are tied together technically also for one more season, in that the Astros are paying almost $40 million for this year's first baseman, Walker at $20 in the remainder of Jose Abreu's 3-year deal. Lastly, about the other things, again, maybe not so significant. You feel it's safe to say the Astros need to add a veteran starting pitcher, a veteran outfielder, just somebody that they might be able to count on for parts of the season, knowing that, really after the top 5 or 6 in the lineup and maybe after the top 3 or 4 in your rotation, there's some major question marks.
Well, he's been the forgotten man when we talk about that trade, but I think Hayden Wesneski kind of fits into that starting pitcher thing. I mean, I'd bet money now he's going to open the season in Houston's rotation. He'll be their 4th or 5th starter. And then, you can start planning your 5-man rotation now, and it's all in the roster. Could they use some help? Could they use some insurance? Sure. I don't think it'll come in the form of a substantial free agent addition. I think you'll see, and this goes for the outfield too, I think you'll see guys on minor league deals with invites to big league camp that hope they can show out well and make the team. Guys on very, very low 1-year deals, guaranteed major league deals, if that. Again, I would not, barring them getting some hits on some trade things they're talking about, I would be surprised if there is another substantial financial addition to this team before spring training.
As we thank you and bid you adieu for the day, really appreciate you carving out some time on a very busy news day for the Astros. If you feel so inclined, do you have an Alex Bregman destination prediction now?
The Red Sox still make too much sense, just given his relationship with Alex Cora, given kind of he wants to win now, given kind of they could play him at second base, maybe move him to third if they convince Devers to move to first. But I wouldn't rule out the Tigers either. The Tigers have just kind of been lurking. They haven't done much this offseason. They give Alex Cobb $15 million for some reason. But, I mean, they just made the playoffs. They were a win away from going to the ALCS. Like, their time is now to kind of make that move. And there's no better person on the free agent market right now, in my opinion, to build your team around, just from a clubhouse perspective, from a post perspective, and just from a winning perspective than Alex Bregman, and obviously the connection with A.J. Hinch. So I wouldn't rule the Tigers out either.
Interesting couple of thoughts. I have thought the Red Sox for quite some time. We shall see, maybe in the not-too-distant future, but certainly appreciate your time today and look forward to the continued excellent coverage there in The Athletic.
All right. Thanks, Adam.
You got it.